Hello there. Oh, we're not doing hands, are we? We're doing elbow bumps. Hello and welcome back. Carrying on with this love letters journal. What I've decided that I'm going to do is on the inside here, I'm going to cut two pieces. Well, it might. No, I'm going to cut two pieces. Sorry, thinking out loud there. I'm going to cut two pieces of this black cardstock to put on each side of the inside cover. All right, so I'm going to put two pieces on there, and then this was a piece that I was gifted from a rack, and it's from the botanical tea collection from Graphic 45, and I'm going to utilise that as my spine, but I'm going to extend it beyond the spine, but I'll come to that in a minute. So basically I need to measure my inside cover, and it helps if you have the ruler the right way around. There we go. So I want to cut it, let me just say 1, 2, 3, 6 3/8 inches wide. 6 3/8 inches wide by, I'm leaving just a tiny border. So this is 9 inches deep, so I'm going to cut it to 8 7/8. Pencil, Carol. 8 7/8, because I'll never remember. 8 7/8 by, what did I say? No, can't hear you. 6 3/8. Okay, so let's get me trimmer out, and I want to cut two pieces. 6 3/8 that way, 8 7/8 that way. Okay, 8 7/8. 8 7/8 by 6 3/8. 1, 2, and that's that silly measurement that doesn't show up, Mr. Fiskers, on your paper trimmer. And I want a second piece. So 8 7/8. Excuse me. 8 7/8 by 6 1 2 3/8. So they will stick on the inside. Now then, my spine is my spine is 3 inches wide. Now I want it to overlap onto the front and the back cover, because I'll make can't speak. Okay, so I want it to overlap by approximately 1.5 inches on each side, because I want to make those into little pockets. So that makes it, I want it 6 inches wide by 8 7/8 deep. 6 inches wide, 6 inches wide. And this is directional, so I need to go that way. 6 inches wide by 8 7/8. 8 7/8. So I'm going to use my Collal glue to firstly glue in the two black pieces of cardstock, and this is just cardstock that I got from Hobbycraft here in the UK, and I think off the top of my head it's about a 210 GSM, because this little bit of extra weight will add a little bit more sturdiness to the front and back cover. So that should sit, and I'm going to butt it up to the crease. So I don't want it overlapping on the crease, I want it butt up to the crease. Oh, it moved. Stay. So I've got a tiny border top and bottom, and a smidge of a border on this outside edge here. Okay, and the same with this piece. So again, I'm butting it up to that crease mark where the spine is. And then I've got a tiny border at the top and at the bottom. And the spine piece I'm not going to stick in just yet because I need to add what I'm going to attach my envelopes with. So that's the inside of my cover done for now, and I'll come back to that in a moment. The next step is to make my hinges that I'm going to attach my envelopes to, and these are the hinges that I've already prepared here. And this is a technique that I've actually used before on a Christmas journal that I made using the Artie Maze kit, and I'm going to use the same technique again. Now what I've done is I've cut excuse me, some coffee dyed card that I'd got, but you know, you can use whatever thin card you've got, and I've cut them into 1.5 inch strips. I've needed to make sure that they actually reach the height of the cover of the book, so I've cut these strips lengthways off from a sheet of A4 card. And to date I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 made up. This will be my 6th one that I'm doing. Now, although I'm cutting mine to 1.5 inch wide strips, you might want to think about maybe doing them slightly wider, depending on if you want to do the next step. The next step is to actually add a punched border. Now I used this one, which is an X-cut border, and it's just the right width for me to be able to get, I'll show you a close-up of this. So it's just enough width to be able to get the border plus a little extra piece of the plain card. All right, now then, I also tried it with this Martha Stewart punch, and that's what happened. So there's now not enough room to put the gusset down this central area down here. So because if I wanted to use this one, I would therefore need to do a slightly wider strip. So have a little test on a little piece of card first to see what sort of width you need to use if you're going to use the border punched edge. All right, so what I'm going to do with my strip is I'm going to place it in my score pal. Let me move that one out of the way. Now I'm not butting it up to the edge, just because I want to be able to visually see it a little bit better and have a little bit more manoeuvrability with it. So I'm going to put it up there, and I've just lined it up to one of the inch marks. Now because it's 1.5 inches wide, I know that 3/4 of an inch is the middle. All right, so if I go to 3/4 of an inch, that's the middle slot, and I'm going to go 1 notch either side of that middle point. So the first one is going to be 5/8 of an inch, so that will be the first one that I do, and then the second one will be 7/8 of an inch, and it then will give me a 1/4 of an inch gully down the centre. Right, so hopefully you might be able to see those marks, but there's one here and one here. So I've measured, find out where the centre is, and then I've gone 1/8 of an inch this side, and then from the centre 1/8 of an inch this way, and then I've scored it. Now I'm not folding it at this point, because the next thing that I want to then do is to punch the edge of my card. So I'm going to go off and go and punch this, although on this particular piece I'm actually only going to punch it along one edge. I'm not going to punch it across the other edge, but I would normally punch all the way down and then don't turn it around, flip it over, and then all the decorative border will be lined up with each other. So as you can see on this one, because I flipped it over, this part of the decoration is lined up with this part of the decoration, so they're lined up. If you twist it round, it can slightly offset them, and so that they will then look odd. So I'm going to go off and go and punch this, and I'll see you back here in a second. So I've got my punched edge. I haven't done it all the way along the whole strip because I don't need it. I know that this is the right length. And then I've also only done it along one side and not both sides. Excuse me. I'm just going to trim off that little bit of excess because I know now that this is the right length for the inside part of my spine. And then I'm going to fold along those score marks that I did earlier and then burnish them down. Open it back out, turn it round and do the other side. And again, burnish it back down. So now I've got all these pieces prepared. Now, if I find that this doesn't fit in the whole of my spine, I can always add some more to it if I so wished. So those are the ones, excuse me, that are going to go in my journal. So if I show you a close-up again, you can see that it's got this little gully on the inside. So it's now got a flat backside, which is what I'm going to stick to that inside spine. So here's my inside spine piece, and using my pencil and a ruler, I know that I'm having 1.5 inches from this edge to act as a pocket. So I've got one of those rulers that you can see through. So I've lined 1.5 inches up against the cut edge of the paper here, and I'm just going to very lightly with the pencil just run a line down there, because I can soon rub it out afterwards. And I'm going to do the same on this side. So 1.5 inches is lined up on the edge of the paper, and then draw a pencil line down from there. Now I also know that this spine area here are 1/4 of an inch wide. Well, I don't want the first one butt up to this line because it's going to encroach on the folded area. So I want to measure 1/8 of an inch in, and again using my see-through ruler I'm going to line this first 1/8 of an inch up on top of the pencil line. In fact, I might even go 1/4 of an inch just to be on the safe side. And then I'm going to draw a line again, and that is where, let me just do it a little bit darker for you to see, because this is only for me. So hopefully you can see these now. So this the second line that I've drawn is where this is going to butt up to the edge of that folded line, okay? Now again, I know that the spine of this is 1/4 of an inch wide, so 1/4 of an inch across from there will take me up to the other side of this. But I want to leave 1/8 of an inch before the next one. So that's 3/8 of an inch I now need to measure, because 1/4 and 1/8 is 3/8 of an inch. Make sure 1, 2, 3, 3/8 of an inch lined up on my ruler. Okay, and that's where the second one is then going to sit. Again, 3/8 of an inch, so that's 1/4 of an inch for the actual doobry-whatsits and an 1/8 of an inch gap, and that's where the next one is going to sit. 3/8 of an inch again, and so on and so forth, all the way across that spine that I will stick in later. 1, 2, 3. Johnny caught a flea, pocketed it in his pocket, and he had it for his tea. Oh, I don't know, the things I come out with from my childhood. 1, 2, 3. Line it up. And 1, 2, 3 again. And then that should leave me with an 1/8 of an inch thereabouts between there and there. So I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to get 6 in there, and then have a slightly bigger gap at this end, but I might be able to just squeeze one in. We'll see. Okay, so we're going to put some Tombow glue, and I'm using my Tombow glue just purely because it's got a slightly finer nib on the glue bottle than my Collal glue, and it's a little bit of a stronger glue as well. So I'm going to put glue all on that spine edge, and that is going to sit wrong way around, Carol, I mean that way around. That's going to sit there. It is also fractionally shorter than the width of the paper, so it finishes like a 1/16 of an inch top and bottom shorter than the piece of paper, and then that's going to sit right there. It moved. Stay. Okay, so that's the first one in place. Second, so I know that that next pencil line that I've drawn is for the edge of this. So that's going to sit on there like so. Make sure I've got it on my pencil line. Sorry, you might have seen my hair then. I'll try and line it up. Okay, so now I've got 2 in position on that spine. I'm going to continue on, and I'll come back when I've finished doing those. All of my hinge pieces are now in place. Now you might be tempted to go and do a score line where this first line is here, because it's going to be the score line of on the cover itself, and the same on the opposite side. I'm not going to do that because I want it to work that it's its natural fold, because sometimes even when it's glued in place, the score line doesn't always match up with the score line on the cover. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over, and I'm using my Tombow glue on this one because it's a slightly stronger glue than the Collal, and if it works if it works and the glue comes out, there we go, I'm going to cover all of the back side of this with glue, and it will give it a nice strong bond. Now most people are tempted to fold these before the glue has actually set, so once I've glued this in place, I'm then going to leave it. So I'm going to go off, make a cup of tea, and I'm going to leave it to completely set before I attempt to fold the cover over, because if you don't allow the glue to dry properly, the spine will just lift up off the cover itself. So I'm just going to spread that about, make sure I've got plenty on the corners as well, and because I've done this to the same height as the black, it should all line up really nicely. So carefully flip it over. I can use those pencil lines as a guide to make sure that it's sat on what will be the spine area, and line this bottom edge and the top edge up with the black card. So I can apply pressure with my hands this way. Okay, Carol made a boo-boo. I said that I was going to leave these as pockets, didn't I? And I'm going to put glue all over the back. Best laid plans of mice and men. Okay, never mind. I can do something different, fortunately. It's not a major disaster. So I can use my hands to squidge down this part, make sure that it's got good contact there, and then I'm just going to run my bone folder carefully down the centre of each of those hinges, and then also in between each of those hinges, to ensure that that card is stuck to the cover really nicely. So either side of those hinges as well, and I'm not pressing down really hard because I don't want to score it with the bone folder. I just want to make sure that I've got good contact. And then, as I say, I'm going to leave this for a little while for this glue to go off before I actually fold it. So I'm off to go and make myself a brew, and I'll see you back here in a bit. Welcome back. I've had my brew. So I'm now going to fold these. Hopefully the glue has now set. So all I'm basically going to do is I'm just going to very carefully fold, and then when I can see where the definite fold is, I'm just going to run my bone folder up and down that crease to help it to bend, and hopefully then it will crease nicely. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. Excuse me. So I'm going to bend it slightly and then run my bone folder up and down that crease to help it to bend. And then that is the basis of my journal now made and ready to add the envelopes to. I've come up with a different solution for this area, but if you were going to do this as a pocket, then obviously you would only put glue on this spine area of this piece of paper, and then put glue on the top and at the bottom, so then you could use that as a pocket. But I messed up, so I now can't do that, but I've come up with an alternative, so that's fine. And you'll see that as we go along, but that now closes up nicely, and I can start to add my envelopes to these hinges. Now what I'm going to try to do is cover 1 or 2 envelopes, different types of envelopes, in the next few videos to show you what I'm going to do to make them and to decorate them. And different types to be able to add them then to your spine. Obviously, if you want to go off and go do your own thing after this, that's absolutely fine. But I'm going to cover a few different options of showing you how to decorate them and how to make some different types of envelopes. And then I'll show you how I'm going to attach them into this journal cover. So thanks very much for joining me, and I'll see you all again in the next video. Bye for now.